Hi and welcome. I'm Alicia Diane, and have backgrounds been a pain in the back for you? Have backgrounds been a back pain for you? They certainly were for me for a very long time, and I want to share with you some tips and tools that you can use so that they won't be painful anymore. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Three, two, one, and it should be broadcasting. Perfect. So let's go ahead and open up where I was living off in Procreate. So this is an illustration I'm working on. I've been working on it for, I've been kind of dabbling in and out of it for a couple of weeks, just not dealing with it every day, just coming back and forth. But I realized something not only with this illustration, but as I've been doing more and more backgrounds lately, uh, I just am noticing some things and I wanted to share with you some of those. So I'm just going to be sketching as I'm talking about what I've learned. And the first one is if you're trying to create some sort of art or visual development, um, I always got confused with it. I didn't know like what it actually meant if you're trying to build a visual development piece for your portfolio. I really didn't know like where to start because I'd never worked in the studio doing that. So I was always like confused about like, okay, well, how do you make something that's interesting? I always would see other artists and what they were doing, and most of my illustrations were kind of just reference drawings, drawing from life. And I was like, well, maybe if I draw from life with some sort of like fantasy aspect to it, that will be good for my um, visual development portfolio. And I noticed that I was having a hard time trying to come up with ideas for like what to do or how to change real life. And maybe it's easy for you, but it was really hard for me. And it actually stopped me a lot of times. I didn't feel inspired. And I say this because, I mean, how can you even how can you even start with your backgrounds if you don't even know what to draw? So, first things first, if you're doing a piece for your visual development, if you're doing like a full piece, it's not just a character, it's a character and a background. You want to go from a script. So, using a script changed everything because you're not just thinking in terms of just that one image, you're thinking in terms of story. You're changing your mindset from single image to story. So if you don't have your own script, you can use scripts. They do have scripts that are available online. If you don't feel comfortable writing, you can write a very short story if you're able to, if you feel comfortable writing a very short story, or you can use a short story. Use a story rather than just trying to on the spot as you're illustrating, trying to come up with something um to make a to make a single image like interesting. Have it based on some sort of storytelling. So that would be my first tip when you're going into background. Your second one is you want to look up cinematic shots. So instead of just kind of pulling your pulling your composition out of a hat or out of nowhere, you can look up different types of cinematic shots. This was really helpful for me when I started doing comics. I would look at different cinematic shots, and there's tons of videos on the different types of shots. So this one is on a slant. So this one, what is it called? There's a name for this type of shot, and I'm gonna look it up real quick. Obviously, I didn't memorize them so from heart. So let's see. So let me see. Cinematic shot on slant. And I've looked this up before I started. And what it's called is a Dutch angle. There you go. It's called a Dutch angle. So that way it's like there's always different meanings and different type of psychological tricks that they do when you put different angles. So for this Dutch angle is actually makes you feel a little bit disoriented. If you guys didn't notice, this young poor boy, who is Bendelli from my graphic novel JD Story, um, is running from this baboon that he found that he unfortunately stumbled upon while him and his friends were kind of looking for treasure at their local dump. That's kind of their thing. They kind of like to get into trouble. So obviously these are characters that I've thought about. These are characters who I know. They like to get into trouble. They like to kind of fool around. And in this scene, they're actually digging through the dump. And unfortunately, it's a little bit close to like the fauna, the forest area. What's called in, I call it, refer to in the graphic novel as the bush. So it's close to the bush. There's a baboon who found some scraps and he was eating them. And Bandelli, poor Bandelli, has to run from this baboon now. So when I was thinking about this, it's based on a already existing intellectual property that I have. So I made a couple of short scripts for Bendelli because I just thought that his personality is so fun. And I just wanted to explore ways that I can practice storytelling just with him. And because JD Story is a very, if you haven't read it, it's very serious. It's very serious. It's a lot of drama. And it's from a girl's perspective. I thought like I can also do these kind of short stories about her brother that are little, he's younger, he's prepubescent, unlike JD, who's kind of dealing with older feelings, older emotions. He's, still a kid and he's still kind of playing around and he's adventurous and he gets in trouble. And I thought it'd be fun to tell some short stories. So I wrote a short script, and that is where I got this image from, the image idea from this script. Okay, so you're going to want to use the script first off, and then you're going to want to look up some cinematic angles. Next thing you want to do is you're going to create those thumbnails. So obviously you're going to do thumbnails. Thumbnails going to make your life easier, but it's going to help you to practice getting your idea fully fleshed out before you get started. Most of you guys probably already use thumbnails. Let me show you if I can show you mine for this. At practice, I actually did these, and I think it's good to experiment with your thumbnails because what I did with this one was, I'm gonna put these together, was I did them in reverse coloring. I make these black backgrounds, and I just kind of played around with where Bandeli would be when he's going right the moment when he finds this baboon, is it going to be he's running? That's the one I actually chose. So I chose like the different options with, playing around with who's going to be where, and is Bandeli going to be the focus? Is the baboon going to be the focus? Is he going to be in the shot? How's it going to look? It's just going to be his feet flying. And so I ended up choosing this, and this is like very rough thumbnail before I started getting more serious about it. And I came into this, and then now we're actually doing the full thing. Okay, so let's go ahead. And this is the actual sketch. So now I'm just cleaning everything up. But yeah, you want to kind of test out your ideas. Don't limit yourself too much right away. Kind of explore those cinematic shots, what you want to show, whose like perspective you want to show it from, and which is going to be the most exciting for you. What's really important that I didn't figure out before is that you have to figure out all the stuff that's not important. The not important stuff is actually really important. What I mean by that is your props. You're really gonna have to figure out what your props are gonna be, and for that you're gonna need reference. So what I used to do when there was a lot of junk was I used to like, and I probably, I'm not sure if I have it, before I fleshed out all of these little details of what's in my shot, I just had like crap. It was just literally like mush. And I think what I noticed too, when I used to finalize my illustrations, those background objects, those props would still kind of be mush if they weren't really important, or either that, or I would just leave them out, or just put like one or two things and just kind of not give a lot of attention to the props. And that's a mistake. You want to make sure that you know what props are going to be in the shot. And the only way to know what props are going to be in the shot is you need to get reference. You need to get reference. And what I would recommend is going in, and you want to take um find reference and just write notes about all the different objects that you see. Write notes about all the different objects that you see while you are while you're looking through your references. So if you see like some of the things that I wrote down, I wrote tin can, bottle, uh, wood plank, broken bicycle wheel, fishbone, trash bag, tires, oil tin, baskets, broken baskets, cardboard. So I literally itemize all those things. And then there's a couple of things that are like dirt mounds, and there's a piece of fabric here. So it's not just mush. I know exactly what's in every spot. Even ones that kind of look mush, like that's fabric. There's dirt, there's pipes. There's empty oil cans. I even put a little like Easter egg. I put a flour sack just because I thought it would be fun. Another basket filled with like sand or dirt or fabric. And then I have like a milk tin. I have more cardboard boxes, trash, a plastic bin. So nothing is like haphazard. Everything's thought out. I have a discarded mattress. And even in some of the reference pictures, I saw these big piles of like literally like piles of trash. And so I made some of those along with like obviously the bush is having its foliage coming out with the trees and the palm trees, and you want to see like you might even want to look up like what plant species. I looked up even the types of weeds, so I was finding some of those. So actually don't just guess. Actually, look them up. And you know what? I got so much more detail when I looked up these objects and I saved the images of them. I saved like what does a bicycle like I had an image of what a bicycle tire looks like in my mind, but when I actually looked it up, I was like, "Oh, there's a lot more detail here that I wasn't thinking about." So I would make an actual folder for props, for prop items that might be in your shot. So wherever your location is, it might not be in a dump like where poor Bandelli is right now, but it might be someplace, any place where you can look up reference, you can write down the different types of objects that are going to be in that location. And then after you write those things down, look them up individually so you can get a good picture of what those things actually are. That way, you're going to have a much stronger background. There's a lot of times recently when I've had to work on some things where there was just kind of um, like a messy house or something, or like a messy room. And there was two different projects that I worked on last year. And when I look back, I'm like, oh, you know what? I could have done a better job because I didn't look up enough objects. So there was things going on. There was clutter, but I was like, man, now that I have more information, I'm like, okay, well now I could look up. I could be more intentional about what those background things are. Like if there's books, what types of books, what sizes are the books, um, what supplies might a middle schooler have? What supplies might a middle-aged person have? Those are very different things. Objects from the 80s or 90s or 2000s. So you want to make that list first and then find pictures that correlate with that because it's going to be a lifesaver for you. It's going to make a big, big difference. And you might not even realize it at first, but when you get to the specifics and you're getting those specific props in, like bricks, and you're even putting weeds in. I put a little mouse in one of these tin cans over here. So when you get to be that specific, it's just more engaging. And even when people don't look at it right away, probably not going to notice right away, but they'll see that your image is a lot more detailed and it just makes it more engaging and more interesting. And the viewer might not even understand or realize why at first, but they're going to notice that this is a lot more engaging to them for some reason. My voice has been going out lately. I don't know why, but it's been kind of going out a little bit. Okay, the next one you're gonna do is study the pictures. So what I did too was when I was making the list, I did a couple of little thumbnails of some of the objects and just kind of played around with how I might draw them. Now you might have your own style and just draw them one certain way, but you might want to take a minute and just kind of sketch out some of those objects that you're taking reference of and just kind of see how you can play with their shapes. I think it's really, really important to have clear shapes in your background. Not just anything. Like you see, like I have triangles, I have circles, I have cylinders, I have cubes. And you want to make sure that everything is really clear with your shapes. You're not really like just doing even with the clouds, you know, and you're doing like these types of things. Make sure they're all appealing type shapes. You don't want them to be like almost a circle, but not quite a circle. Like the sun, you can see is a really clear circle. It's not like kind of a circle. So like even the bushes, they're pretty round. And even the way that they go, you see big and small, that's all intentional. So you want to be intentional about those types of things. Make sure that you have clear shapes and that you have things where they need to be. You have like, okay, this corner is like, all right, I'm gonna have the junk kind of like in this triangle shape in this area, and another triangle shape in this area, and just kind of make sure that the area where Bendelli is clear, so he's standing out, and make sure that that baboon is really standing out too. So nothing is like rubbing up too close to the feet or anything like that. These clouds won't be black once they're done. They'll have like, these colors are going to stick out a lot more. So just being intentional about those things. Let's see. What else can I say about the background? Oh gosh, color palette. Yes, color palette is I used to make such a mess. I used to make such a mess of my color palette because I didn't understand color. I didn't understand color, and if you study animation, that's the thing that sucks. At least in my experience when I was studying animation, they didn't teach us anything about color theory. And they were teaching us a lot of other things. I'm not mad at my school. Yeah, but this you have to understand too that you have to, I guess, take responsibility to learn whatever is not being taught to you. So they can only teach you so much in 4 years. There's a lot to learn. You're gonna have to learn more of it, much more of it on the outside. So color palette, one of the things that I would recommend is keep it as simple as possible. I especially recommend this for people who might feel insecure about their ability to pick color, which I definitely was, and I still like to use lots of reference, but this is number one. I think use a reference image for your color palette. It's going to make it so much easier for you. And this is one of the things I would teach my middle schoolers when I was teaching comics and animation. Just use a color palette. It's going to make your life easier. And don't pick every color in the image. You have 6 colors. That's it. You're not going to get more than that. You get 6 hues, and you can go light or darker. Let me show you what that looks like. So let me make a new layer. So let's go make this whole thing white for a second. All right, so I got this reference image. The artist is Chow Martins, and I love this little pastel look. And what I do is I go in and I go to this classic and I'll scoot it over and I'll find And I don't use eyedropper when I'm picking a color palette because I want to be able to pick a color that I like and that looks like it without, without like doing it without any thought. I like to think through it. So problem solve. It helps you to understand the colors better, like how much green, how much blue, and all of that. So if you're starting to think and you're looking, okay, this kind of looks like that first color there. So you're gonna pick 6 colors from this image. And there might be a very colorful image, but pick the colors that stand out most to you. So I picked like this like minty green. I picked this light green, the yellow, the pink, the fuchsia red/red. I think I made mine a little bit more red intentionally. And for the blue, I didn't pick the desaturated one. I picked the little saturated highlight because I can always go in, and once you pick your 6 colors, you can go in and go lighter, darker with it. Then I can always go in and make it less saturated or darker for my final image and kind of go around. So you're keeping that same hue, and then you can go anywhere you want to. You can go darker, you can go lighter, but it's going to be in that same family. And you see the hue color is not sliding. So it's going to stay there, but you're staying in that same family. And that's what I like to do. I'm going to figure out the uh, light and dark in my image after. So right now it's just like keep it simple. Merge this down. Make it very simple. And, it's okay to just, I think if you're going to pick anything from another artist, uh, like obviously the style, the content has nothing to do with the other. Like I'm doing an African boy being chased by a baboon in a dump next to the bush. And this is obviously of some young girl like with a magic wand. I don't know what she's doing, but I love the color. So I use the color. I pick 6 colors, and you can just make those 6 colors in a palette. So I put them all in this palette, and I would automatically put black and white. And this is my brown. This is a deep brown that I like to sketch with. I put that one in almost all of my palettes, but I just keep it in those 6 colors. So that way I can take that palette and I can just go lighter, darker, more saturated, less saturated, but I keep it in that family, and it makes life so, so, so much easier. Here's my black, here's my brown. I use my black right now, and it makes life so much easier. It really does. It really, really does. Oh my gosh, so, so much easier. And I keep working on this, but I really hope that this little bit of tip has been helpful for you. So just remember what we talked about for if you're doing anything for visual development, you want to make sure that you are using a script. Don't just rely on something to come out of nowhere. Even if you're using your own stories, you can write a 1 paragraph story and just use something that evokes image. And then you create create your thumbnails, create a couple options, see which perspective you like better. Like I did for, let's see, like I did for this one, just see which ones you like, which one you think is most compelling. Look at those cinematic shots so that you are telling a story that is, going to be exciting to look at and is reflecting the mood of the picture that you're evoking for people. And then you want to pick a color palette that, inspires you. So if it's lighter, darker, if it's going to be more reds, more blues, like pick a color palette that works for you. And I think that if you're going to use reference for color palette, yeah, I think that's the best way to go, especially if you're still trying to figure out color. Keep it minimum, only do 6. And then before I didn't forget, make sure that make a list of the props that are in that location, write them all down, and get pictures of each of them. Okay? Get pictures of each prop. That way you won't just have mush, but you'll have actual objects that are making sense for your picture and are making sense for the scene. Okay, I hope that helps. It's just a little bit of stuff that I've learned along the way, and I will see you very soon. Until I see you again, be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. Bye bye.